Working.
Let's
Right
see.
here.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay.
No, just clearing some space.
He's clearing some space.
Oh, okay.
I'll do the same too. And that's when we lost it. So, truth for an Aquarian is something that's very real. And something that really gets into like the soul of how we could talk about Aquarius. But truth is not just this capital abstract sense of truth. I want to go into something that's even deeper about the sense of truth. But I'm going to tell you through a myth and through a story. So, in modern astrology, we talk about there being rulers of different signs. So, for Leo, the ruler is. Anybody know? I know one person in here knows, but anybody else know? Or two people. Ruler of Leo is what?
The sun.
The sun. Okay? So, Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, for example, and Virgo. So, when we talk about Aquarius, we either going to be talking about Uranus, according to some modern astrologers, or we could be talking about Saturn. Now, classically, I believe Saturn to be the ruler of Aquarius, and let me tell you why, and that's the mythology of it. Because Uranus is tapped in there somehow. Saturn, classically, was called Kronos. And Kronos, actually, was the son of Uranus, or Uranus. And what happened is that Uranus suppressed his children, essentially. And Saturn was determined to rebel. So he engaged his mother, Gaia, and Uranus was the sky god, and Gaia, just like we know her now in terms of being the earth mother, was still also the earth mother. So he asked his mother for help. He ambushed his father Uranus with the scythe that you see that he has, the sickle, and he cut his father's balls off. That's in the story, right? He cut his father's testicles off, and from that sprang other gods called Titans, right? And also, once those testicles were thrown into the sea, from the foam came Aphrodite, Venus. And so, after his father had been deposed, Saturn sat on the throne, also known as Kronos, with his sister Rhea. Don't judge. All right. I mean, the Greeks, you might be like, those Greeks are nasty. The Egyptians were like that too, with the sisters, and everyone else had their thing. So it was a different time. But he reigned during a peaceful era with his sister. Now, I want you to note a couple of things about that story that's essential to Aquarius. One, you had a rebel, and you had a rebellion, and you had someone who took authority, came from the outside, and put things in the inside. Then, while sitting on that authority, this is the other part of the story, there was a prophecy delivered from Gaia and also from his own wife, Rhea, who said that Kronos would be deposed by his own children. So what did Saturn or Kronos do? He started eating his own kids. He started eating his own future. And by virtue of eating his own future, he was denying himself and denying the power, sharing the power in terms of having the natural course of things, the natural evolution of things. The story ends with Zeus, also known as Jupiter, deposing him and then sharing that with his own siblings and creating Olympus. And Saturn was banished into another realm. So he was not killed, he didn't lose his testicles, but he was deposed. Now, what's the story about this, or how does this relate to Aquarius? Aquarius is where we have to deal with the essence of truth, and you have to keep the integrity of that truth and be willing to fight for it. And willing to fight for it without becoming a tyrant yourself. That's one of the key things to realize about Aquarius, because sometimes with Aquarius, there can be a certain kind of idealism, a certain sense and conviction that you know what's right, but you become the tyrant that you rebelled against. See, Aquarius, by virtue of being the outsider who goes in, has a big responsibility. It has a responsibility to the truth, but sharing that truth and giving away. One of the key aspects in terms of another mythology that relates to Aquarius, that, and don't freak out because I mentioned Saturn already, but Saturn also relates to another myth, right? Satan. So Saturn, Satan also have their roots in an older myth from Egypt called Set. Okay, and Set was the key obstacle to the god known as Assad, or also corrupted as Osiris. Right? Now, Set was the adversary, was the defender against kind of like Assad, but against even the idea of having an adversary as someone who's opposition, who advocates for a different voice, who advocates for difference itself. Now, why does that mean anything for Aquarius? What's significant about Aquarius as being the adversary is recognizing that you are supposed to be on the outside to stand against those who believe that truth just belongs to one key force, belongs to one key person. You have a responsibility and an allegiance to that truth and that conviction itself, not for your own personal gain, not for your own ego, and not for your own sense of self. That requires responsibility. Now, here's where I'm going to come out of my box and out of my closet, sort of. I mentioned Satan. I mentioned Saturn. Here's what I'm going to tell you about the idea of gods and God itself. When we talk about Aquarius, we also have to talk about its reflective point, which is Leo, the sun. And the sun was viewed at some point in human history as the reflection of the divine principle itself. And so Saturn, that opposite point of Aquarius, is like Satan saying in Milton, I would rather reign in hell than serve in heaven. Now, that doesn't mean that Aquarius has to become Satan. Don't go home telling people like, you the devil. My astrologer said you the devil. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying something deeper. I'm saying that if you are willing to kind of be defiant in finding the truth, then you cannot set yourself up to be a god. And if you're willing to be an advocate for the truth, you're going to have to be responsible for that as your own human self. What I'm saying to you is, if we're going to have a world or worlds without gods and heads and kings and authority, then you have to be willing to be that authority yourself. And most people don't want to have the responsibility for their own lives. What does that mean? It's like, of course I want to be responsible for. Are you really responsible for your own life? Are you really thinking about how you're governing yourself? Or are you doing what's been fulfilled for you or set out for you by another in terms of your parents or what your society? Well, I should have a girlfriend. Who told you should have to have a girlfriend? Or a boyfriend? Or a partner? Or be rich? Or have money? Or get that kind of car? Or get that college degree? Are you fulfilling what's in your essence as your truth, or are you just obeying what others have set out for you? What others have laid out for you, what gods have told you, what a God has told you. So you have to be willing to take that responsibility. Let's go deeper. A lot of people are talking about the government. And a lot of people are talking about the Leo rising that we call Donald Trump, right? Notice I used that on purpose. After we just had an Aquarius rising. President Obama was Aquarius rising, and Donald Trump is a Leo rising. All right? I'm going somewhere with this, right? So the idea I'm telling you is that we can talk about rallying the people, which is what Aquarius is about, taking it from the outside and bringing it in. But do you want the power to be in control? Are you willing to kind of take the step and really come to govern yourselves? I'm not so sure. America talks a good game about this is a country by the people, for the people, but are we really about the people? Are we really about that idea, this nation that supposedly has a moon in Aquarius? Are we really attuned to wanting to be responsible to the truth? And the truth is that Aquarius represents the principle where we have to be not just serving the idea of truth, but truth in humanity itself. There's a joke about Aquarians that said, like, oh, I love humanity. It's people I can't stand. The real truth of Aquarius is coming to appreciate and love us. Love the humanity with compassion, to be ready to take that challenge, to go forward, and the resistance, but knowing the resistance is not just against something, but it's the resistance to break open the heart and let it spill, let it flow. It's not some idealized sense of truth that's just out there by your reasoning. It's from the heart. And at the moment that you're willing to break your heart and have your heart broken for another person that you may not even know, then something magical can happen. Then you start to transcend, and that water becomes a crystalline truth that takes you higher to something that swims deeper in deeper waters, that goes in different places. And you can open your mind and your heart and see that they can be in a flow. And at that point, something else has happened that breaks open the waters of Aquarius and streams upstream to the fish we call Pisces. Aquarius, your destiny rests also with Pisces. It's not just your past, but it's also your future. But don't lose sight of your truth in the moment. The truth in the moment is love now. And be willing to be responsible now. Don't eat your future. Don't resist your future. Knowing that you're going to have to share that power, that responsibility, that sense of authority that you fight for with other people. And are they worthy of it? Are you going to judge them? Because that's an Aquarius thing that can happen. Like, are you worthy of what I can give you? Probably not. But are any of us? And that's the truth. That's it. Thank you.
Yes.